And yeah, thanks, Dean. Okay, so I want to remind you that I'm going to finish this tonight, definitely. And so this is the third of The Artist and the Studio. So if you haven't sent me the two images you have chosen, you should send it through this weekend, okay? Because I'm going to send it on to Dean, and then next week he's going to put on two images, and then you'll present your essay or your presentation on the two images. So if you haven't sent that, please send it in the next few days or by the end of the weekend or Monday. Okay? That would be very helpful.
Simon, I just have a question. Did I send it?
Lucy?
I think you did because you commented on it. It was too.
Yes, I got yours, and I believe I sent it to Dean, and we spoke just a little briefly about what you wrote, and I said that it was fine. It really kind of wasn't an essay, but it was fine. So if you want to elaborate further, you can, or you could just stay with what you have. It's up to you.
Okay.
Okay, okay. So I want to reiterate that I have really enjoyed this, and it's something that I realized as I was presenting this, that is something that means a lot to me. And probably it means a lot because it gives you an insight into the interior world of each of these artists. And it also gives you an insight into the journey that they are on, which is the journey that I'm on. And in a sense, it could be anyone's journey, but this is certainly a visual journey. So the artist that's in front of you is an artist named Scott Hess, uh, Hess, born in 1955, and still alive. Okay, lives in California. I think he lives in Laguna Beach, California, but I'm not 100% sure. But I think that's where he lives or nearby.
Did you spell that? I don't think I have that down. Could you spell it again?
Yes, his name is Scott, Scott,
Yeah.
and his second name is Hess,
Oh, Hess. Okay.
Hess.
Okay, good.
Okay, so he's born in 1955, and he is strongly figurative and has done quite a few self-portraits. The one on the left is one that I've known for a while, and in all of these self-portraits, you see him painting, and the one on the left is maybe the most well-known of these three. His work is quite sharply realistic, but in many ways, many of his paintings are not exactly realistic, but they're very clear. Um, in the one on the right, you also see him painting. He studied in Vienna, and but he's American, came back to the United States, and has lived in the United States basically. And I believe that in Vienna, he learned a way of painting which uses tempera as an underpainting. And then he sets this up in tempera, and then he paints over it. When I was thinking about who to put in this presentation, I was considering him, and then I saw the one in the middle, and I was very, very struck by it. Um, Dean, is there a way of making the one in the middle bigger?
Let's see. Uh,
You can't make it bigger than that.
Oh, yeah, I can make it bigger than that. Let's see. Let's just do this. Sorry, just a second.
It's all right. Oh, that's great. That's great. That's great. Yeah, that's terrific. So what I see here is kind of a whole world, a visitation of an artist. And in this world, he's being visited by perhaps the models or muses, and a kind of whirlpool of images circling around him. And on the floor, on the left-hand side, I see something of Matisse, and just above that one and to the right, I see a painting by Balthus. And so this is quite a large painting, and I was very struck by this. So let's go on to the next artist, Dean. Okay, so suppose I'll do 5 of these, and then I'll ask for your questions. So this is Giorgio Morandi, 1890 to 1964. So Morandi is an Italian artist, Northern Italy, and he spent just about all his time working on these still lifes, bringing them into his studio, arranging and rearranging these still lifes. And the painting in the middle shows Morandi. Okay. And the next one. So this is the artist Balthus, and a real favorite artist of mine. I don't know, could we stop talking, or someone's conversing with someone? Just hold it a bit, or mute it. So this is the artist Balthus, and one of my favorite contemporary artists, though he's not alive now. So his work and the work of Lucian Freud and the work of Antonio Lopez Garcia would be 3 of my favorite contemporary artists. So you see Balthus on the far left, and you see him in the middle, and you see a kind of alternate figure for Balthus on the right. So Balthus, I think his background is Polish, but lives most of his life in France, in Paris. And for a time, he is the director of the French Academy in Rome. His work is very mysterious, sometimes weird, very intense, gets underneath your skin. He does a series of illustrations of different books, or maybe one book that I can recall that's for this purpose. And this is a book of Wuthering Heights. So in the picture on the right, he does an illustration for Wuthering Heights, pen and ink drawings of various parts of Wuthering Heights. And one of them is a drawing which shows, I suppose, Heathcliff and Cathy as figures in Wuthering Heights. And I believe in this painting, he substitutes himself for Heathcliff, and his wife it substitutes for Cathy. If you don't know his work, he would be an artist that you should definitely look up. And the surfaces in his paintings are very, very interesting. The next one. Okay, so this is the artist Felix Nussbaum, Nussbaum. So Felix Nussbaum, 1904 to 1944. Felix Nussbaum lives and dies in Germany. And when I was an art student, I did not know his work at all. Zero. And then maybe about 20 years ago, maybe 25 years ago, I became aware of his work. And there is a beautiful book on his work. I will try to get you the name of the press that produced the book. Absolutely beautiful book. His work is very, very intense and very gets underneath your skin. He did many of his paintings in hiding. He ends up, I think, fleeing to either Belgium or Holland. I think maybe Belgium. And he does these paintings. I could have shown you more of these, but I just in the interest of time, I kept it at these. But you'll see more of them also with self-portraits. So he does these paintings in hiding, and it's a very, very interesting idea. Sorry, I just closed the door. It's a very interesting idea to do these paintings in hiding. There's no gallery, there's nothing special that he's doing them for. They're cries of the heart. He dies in Auschwitz on the last train to go to Auschwitz. Many of his paintings are self-portraits, and many of them show what is happening in Europe at that time. And I think they're absolutely tremendous paintings. And I mean, it's just amazing, given what he was experiencing, to actually sit down and concentrate and do this. It's just simply incredible.
Would he have been able to paint in a concentration camp?
I think that the one on the right was done in a concentration camp, but the other two, no. Now, was he able to paint? I don't know. I really,
Where
yeah.
would he get the paint and the stuff he needs? I mean, without somebody getting after him.
Say it again. Is this Lucy?
Yeah, I'm
Say
just wondering
your question. Say your question again.
how would he have been able to paint in a concentration camp?
Well, I don't know the answer to that, but now it's
May I say, I do know something about it.
Oh, okay, let me just say what I have to say.
Sorry, yeah.
But then you come in. The one on the right is a painting in a concentration camp. Now, it could be that this is done from his imagination, from what he remembered.
Uh-huh.
So it could be that it's not done in a camp. Could you, who was speaking?
Francis.
Francis, tell me.
Okay, there's a book called A Brush with Death, and it's by an artist who was in the camps. And when they saw that he could do artwork, the guards wanted pictures of themselves drawn that they could send home, and paintings. And he survived and wrote a book about it because of his artwork. So it's possible that someone who could do artwork would have been given materials to do work for them, but would have to do it one like this in secret.
That's possible. That's possible. I'm not sure. I'm not sure about that. But does someone have another?
Yes, Simon, I do, Rita.
Yeah.
How
Yeah.
were his paintings recovered or protected? How did we come to be able to look at these paintings?
It's a very good question. I must say I don't know the answer to it. And I don't like to make up things. I just don't know the answer to it. There is a museum in a small town or city in Germany, which is dedicated to him and his work. I don't know the answer to that, but I know that he painted a lot of these paintings in hiding. Now, how do they survive? I'm just am not sure. But I think they're amazing paintings.
Well,
It's really amazing.
If he was in hiding, it's possible the people who were hiding him saw what valuable things these paintings were and somehow hid them.
That's possible.
I mean, he lives on in his paintings.
I-
He died horribly, probably.
I have a feeling that if I read that book more carefully with that in mind, I would know the answer to your question. But at the present moment, I don't have it. But I'll just step over here and get that book. Hold on a second. No, I can't find it. I don't want to take up time with this. Let's do the next one. Okay, so this is an artist who's Dutch. His name is Dick Ket, K-E-T. And I came across his work a few times. And when I was putting this grouping together, quite by accident, I saw it again. And I was struck by how it deals with the theme that I was trying to develop. So my instinct is that all of these paintings are on the small side. So I would guess the middle one is probably like 12 by 12, and the two side ones maybe 20 by 16 or 24 by 18, something like that. Not huge paintings. The form in his art is very strong, very palpable, very graspable. And it's a kind of form that is very appealing to me. But this isn't just about the form. There's something very mysterious about it, and certainly dealing with the artist and the workplace that the artist has. So Dick Ket, 1902 to 1940. So are there questions on any of these? Let's go on to the next one. Okay, so a near.
Simon,
Yeah.
I'm sorry. I wanted to say about Balthus, just my recollection he does a lot of paintings of young girls, doesn't he?
Yes, yes.
And
Who
it
is-
always kind of made me very uncomfortable,
Yes.
his paintings of young girls.
Uh,
There's some kind of sexual nature to it, and I don't know.
yes, I can see what you're saying. Have you seen these paintings in person?
Some, yes.
Okay. I was going to suggest that if you saw them in person, they might be different, but since you've seen them in person, I can't say that. Uh, um, I guess what I would say, you know, we can all disagree and agree on various things, but what I could say is that it seems to me that it's not as clear as what his detractors say. There's something unclear and mysterious about his art,
Okay.
but yet it overlaps with something close to what you're talking about.
Okay.
Okay, so that's what I would say.
Yep, that makes sense.
Um,
You know his
Uh,
date?
Someone else? Someone else?
I was just, Lucy, I was wondering whether you know the dates for Balthus,
The what?
dates of his life.
You
Birth,
didn't do dates.
birth and death.
Oh,
date.
the dates of Balthus? Yes,
Uh-huh.
the dates, I'm sorry, the dates are 1908 to 2001.
Wow.
He was a very aristocratic figure and type, very striking looking. And he does a painting which shows him standing with a cat nearby. And the painting is called The King of Cats. It's a very interesting painting. And he's a very interesting individual. But I could see what Carol is saying. I'm not going to, my own sense is that it's more mysterious and less clear than people have stated. That's my opinion. So let's go on then to George Tooker. So this is George Tooker, 1920 to 2011. So George Tooker, born in Brooklyn, and he would be close to the three artists that I've mentioned as some of my favorites. His work is in tempera on wood panels. So tempera is a kind of, it's not oil paint, it's more matte than oil paint. And its tempera is made by mixing pigments with solution which features egg yolk, a solution which features egg yolk. And the paint dries very quickly and it dries matte. The paintings here are small, like 20 by 16, 16 by 12, 18 by 12, 20 by 12, something like that. So you see him in the middle, self-portrait, and you see him, I believe him, to the left, listening to himself or trying to hear what he himself is thinking, one or the other. And to the right, what could be a studio, which shows a woman and someone behind a screen sitting. I later on, if we have time, I have 3 more images of him, which are very interesting, and I'd like you to see them. So let's go on to the next one.
Hyman, how? is
Yeah,
he-
yes,
how's
go
Tooker-
ahead. Yeah.
How's Tooker spelled?
Oh, sorry. Tooker.
Okay,
Tooker. George Tooker.
okay.
Lives in Brooklyn, and then he, at a certain point, moves to Vermont and lives most of his life, or the latter part of his life, in Vermont.
The painting
Uh,
on the right looks like Mexico to me.
His work does look like Mexican art, actually. And he's a very interesting man, and he would be worth looking up. All right, so the next one, Dean. Okay, so these 3 are by an artist named Raoul Dufay. I don't know if I'm pronouncing that right, Dufay. So it's Raoul and Dufy. If someone speaks French, would you say Dufay?
It's Dufy.
Dufy. Okay, Raoul Dufy. And it's particularly the one in the middle that relates to this theme, also the one on the right. And the one on the left almost looks like an accoutrement in his studio of a birdcage. And these are very French. I think the one in the middle is located at the Phillips Collection in Washington. Dean, the next one?
I just wanted,
Oh.
the one on the far right reminds me of that earlier Matisse.
Yes, yes,
He's got a
good
similar-
point.
similar
Very good
pose.
point. Lucy, excellent point. I agree totally. I agree absolutely. You're absolutely right. Anyway, the next one. So this is the work of David Hockney, Hockney. Oh, and Raoul Dufy is 1877 to 1953. David Hockney, born 1937, still alive. Okay, so Hockney is very, very interesting. I think I would place him amongst the top artists that I respond to. Very, very interesting man, very, very interesting artist. Believes very strongly in drawing and does many, 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 many drawings. And he lives now in California, but he is British, and I believe grew up in London. He does a number of paintings.
Somebody is typing and could they mute?
Could you mute yourself, whoever you
Yeah,
are?
whoever's
Yeah,
typing.
thanks. Thanks, that's great. Thank you. So he does a number of paintings which show him in the studio. And the one on the left and the one on the right are fairly large. I would say 60, 70 inches wide or high. The one in the middle is fairly small, maybe about 20 inches high. He not only painted, but he wrote about art. He theorized about art. And so his books, he has a number of books out in which he writes about the influence of the lens and the camera obscura in art, in fine art. And he has many theories about how artists such as Vermeer, Holbein, used a camera obscura to create their form. Some of these theories are very interesting. Some I agree with, some I'm not sure about. I don't agree with, I'm not sure. But in any case, what it means is that he's really given a lot of thought to this. He for a while used a device called the camera lucida, which is a little glass piece in which an image is reflected onto that little glass piece and is reflected onto a piece of paper. So he's doing a portrait, someone is sitting for him, he gets this camera lucida to reflect the image of that person onto the piece of paper and then traces out the main outlines of that person. So there have been a few recent exhibits of his work that have been really amazing. One at the Morgan Library, which showed drawings of 5 or 6 friends of his. Did any of you ever have seen that exhibit? No? Okay, well, it's too bad. But it was a wonderful, wonderful exhibit where he did many drawings of a particular woman who was an old friend of his. But he does these drawings throughout this woman's life. So not only are they interesting in that they're drawings of his friend, but they show the woman aging and changing. Very interesting. And then there was a large exhibit of his work, I think at the Metropolitan Museum, maybe about 5, 6, 7 years ago. And in that exhibit, there was a room of portraits of couples, large, large paintings. And really, that was one of the best rooms I've seen for a contemporary artist. He might have had 6 or 7 double figures, each one may be 7, 9 feet in width. And you can find these online. Interesting man, interesting mind. Let's see the next one. So this is the English artist Stanley Spencer, 1891 to 1959. 1891 to 1959. So Stanley Spencer is a very important English artist and influenced a lot of artists. And in particular, I think was a very big influence for Lucian Freud. His work is very, very intense. And he probably was extremely intense himself. So you see him on the left painting, in the middle with his wife, on the far right as an older man. And I think that much of his work was done for a church or a chapel in the town that he lived in, which I believe is called Cocham, like something like Cockham, something close to that. And I have not visited that chapel. I relate more to these paintings, but in all of his paintings, they're highly individualistic. And he must have been an incredible character. A play was written about him called Stanley, and I may have seen it 20 years ago or 25 years ago. It's a wonderful play. Okay, the next one. Okay, so this is um, a Scandinavian artist. I'm drawing a blank on which Scandinavian country she's from, but her dates are 1891 to 1955. She comes
What's her
from
name?
her name. Oh, sorry, her name is Charlie Theroux. Charlie, Charley, Theroux, Toroop. She comes from a family of artists, and in the middle you see her, I believe her father and her grandfather. I think the first two were painters and the third a sculptor. And on the left, you see her painting. On the right, you see her with her palette. This would be an example of another woman who is not as well known as she could be. Her work is very strong and the form is very palpable and just has a lot of volume and turn to it. The picture in the middle is quite large. I'm going to guess it's about 78 inches high. Okay, so the next one. Okay, so this is the artist Max Beckmann. So Beckmann, Beckmann, 1884 to 1950. So Max Beckmann is German, and he escapes Germany and ends up living in Amsterdam for 10 years. And then he moves from Amsterdam to St. Louis. And from St. Louis, he moves to New York City. And in the last year of his life, teaches at the Brooklyn Museum Art School. And when I went to that art school, there was a large photograph as you came into the art school, which showed Max Beckmann teaching there. He teaches there for 1 year, and he finds himself going up to the Metropolitan Museum. I think he lives in Manhattan. He speaks no English. When he taught, he had his wife came along who translated for him. His wife's name was Quappi, Quappi. So she translates for him. He goes to an exhibit where a work of his is on display at the Metropolitan Museum of Art and has a heart attack, dies in the street in New York City. His work is barred by the Germans, by the Nazis, from being shown. It's called degenerate art. I'm very fond of the painting in the middle. It seems to me, well, that painting is actually located in Manhattan at the Neue Gallery. They don't always show it, but I think that they own that painting, or the painting is on loan to them. That painting is very striking to me. It almost feels like it's a forecast of things to come. In other words, he's listening. He's not just playing, but he's listening through that horn at the future of Europe. He does many self-portraits. I would say well over 100 self-portraits. And there was a beautiful exhibit that I saw many years ago at Gagosian Gallery. It's a very nice catalog of this. and they showed 40 self-portraits, and included were some sculpture as well. The forms in his work are very strong, very blunt and strong. It almost felt to me that if one of these paintings that I saw in that very fancy gallery dropped onto the floor, it would leave a hole in the floor. So do you have a question so far? Or someone wants to make a statement, or I'll continue. Hello?
Yeah, you can continue.
Okay, so I'm going to keep going. So the next one. So this is the artist Romare Bearden. So Romare is R-O-M-A-R-E, Bearden, B-E-A-R-D-E-N. Romare Bearden, his dates are 1911 to 1988. Very, very interesting and very important African-American artist. Does mostly collage of different types, painted collage, applied collage, all different manners of speaking. And it would seem to me that the painting in the middle looks like a painting of his studio, of his working studio. The painting on the left and the right are probably models that were posing for him. And these are all collaged. The one on the left looks like it's cutouts and material. And the one on the right, a good bit of watercolor in that. His work is very, very interesting. And he would be an example of an artist that I really didn't get when I was an art student. And over many years, his work has become more and more fascinating, very inventive, full of life, very modern, and very much concerned with humanity. The next one. Okay, so these three are wonderful, wonderful examples of Picasso. The one in the middle is particularly fascinating. This is the cover, I believe, of a book that I have on artists and models. And I have a lot of art books and a lot of books connected with this particular theme. So this is on the theme of artists and models. And it's very interesting in that most of this is drawn and only a small part of it is painted. This painting was on exhibit at the Metropolitan Museum when it was at the Whitney Museum. It was called the Met Breuer. And there was an exhibit there called Unfinished. Unfinished, what made works unfinished, what characterized that. And this was there. And I was amazed to see it there. I'd never seen it before. I turned a corner and there it was. He's such a creative artist. I can't say that I like everything of his, but it's like someone who had 12 lives, 12 distinct lives, as opposed to you and I who have one, sometimes maybe two or three. This man had 12. The one on the left, also small. The one on the right, also small. The one on the right, I just love this, the one on the right. So Picasso does this piece when he's, I think, 90 or 92 years old. And there are a number of quotes from him that have to do with children. And I wish I had them in front of me, but they have to do with his perception of learning a lot of things so you can forget about them and return to being a child. There's a bunch of quotes. I'm sure if you looked up Picasso quotes on children, you would see that. But it almost seems to me that in this picture on the right, it is sort of a 90 or 92-year-old man returning to childhood, to some weird childhood. Let's see the next one. Okay, so this is the artist Basquiat, and yeah, it's funny, I don't have his dates here. That's the one artist that I don't have here, and I don't have his dates. So it's a shame, but we're not all perfect. So it seems to me that the one in the middle looks like his studio, and the left and right ones look like self-portraits. He is an artist that I didn't get to start with, and I find him more and more interesting, more and more full of a kind of crazy energy, a kind of wildness that is very appealing to me, or enticing, maybe nuts, but full of life and energy. It's too bad I don't have his dates.
I have his
Died
dates.
died very young. What?
It's
what?
1960 to 1988.
Correct. Yeah.
1960 to 1988. Okay, that sounds right. What's his first name? Jean-Michel?
Yeah,
Jean-Michel Basquiat. And Basquiat is spelled Basquait.
IAT.
Oh, IAT. Basquiat.
Yeah.
Okay. Let's see the next one. Okay, so now I included the one on the left. I juxtaposed the one on the left. Well, I juxtaposed all three of these, but the one on the left is by an artist named Palmer Hayden, Palmer Hayden, 1890 to 1973. Now, I do not know anything about this artist, Palmer Hayden, but I came across this image in a book that I bought on self-portraits, and I was really taken with it, really surprised to see it. It is called The Janitor Who Paints. And it struck me as immediately connecting with this theme, even though when I looked up his other work, I wasn't that crazy about it, but something about this struck me as very interesting. And it made me think slightly. Oh, God. All right, this is terrible because now I can't see anything. I should have turned the phone off. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Okay, I should have turned the phone off, but I didn't because of last week. Let me see if I could turn this back on. Oh, God. Somehow the phone and this whole thing are connected, and I don't quite know how. Can you hear me? Can you hear me?
Yeah.
I don't know how they're connected, but let me, Renee, could you turn the phone off? Could you turn this phone off? And let me see if I could get back to the Zoom.
Turn the whole thing off?
No, I want to turn it off and turn it on. So
Turn the whole phone off?
turn the phone off. Yeah, turn the phone off. if this takes a while, I'll just return to you. I think I know how to do this. Just take a second. Yeah. Oh, I think I got it. Yeah, I think I got it. Me too. Does your thing work? Can you get back on? It's terrible. So sorry. Let's see if Renee could get back on. Let me go on to the one in the middle, which I don't see at all.
Norman
which is-
Rockwell.
Wait, Simon, I want to say something about the one on the left.
Yes, go ahead.
I think it's a really interesting painting. I almost see it as a narrative.
Yes,
I mean, the garbage can is in your face.
yes, yes. Yeah.
And he is looking, I mean, sort of sheepishly, almost like the good darky. And yet, I mean, there's something about it that's very powerful for me. Very
Yes, oh, you reminded me of something which I would like to say here is, I don't know if you've read a book called The Invisible Man.
Yeah.
It's absolutely,
Absolutely.
absolutely terrific book. And it also almost seemed to me that
Ah,
in The Invisible Man, there's a man who is living in the basement, and his journey takes him from his basement, remembering things and all that. What? Oh, okay, okay. Oh, thanks for that. That's great. Thank you so much. Oh, this is terrific. I'm using Renee's computer now, and I see what I'm doing. So in that book, this man lives in a basement, and it's a absolutely fantastic book, a great American novel, and I think he has a lot of lights shining on him, and part of his voyage occurs in this basement, much like this. The one in the middle is by Norman Rockwell, 1894 to 1978. Now, a lot of Norman Rockwell's work, to me, I don't know, it just seems like illustration, or seems like crackerjack or great illustration. But something about this painting maybe gets into the world of fine arts. And it's a painting about painting. It's a painting about perception, and it's a painting about doing a self-portrait and other self-portraits. And curiously enough, it's a painting that has been related to my self-portrait, to my triptych. The one on the right, Picasso with his palette. And the one thing I could say about that one, which I didn't say before, is that it appears in that painting a certain kind of primitive force, a certain almost African mask quality that you see in Picasso. The next artist.
Simon, why? Oh,
Yeah, go ahead.
why
ahead.
did you put these three together?
I wasn't sure about the Picasso in this group, but I liked the one on the left.
Yeah, me
I
too.
couldn't find two others of his work that I liked. I liked the Norman Rockwell, but I really don't like his work. I don't relate to his work. I can understand why people do. I don't relate to it. And the third one, I just threw in. So
Okay.
it's not as good a schema as the others, but it's a schema of kind of one up, one person, one painting per person. That's what I thought. Let's see the next one. Okay, so these paintings are amazing. And these paintings are located in Chicago, at the Chicago Art Institute, and they are by Ivan Albright. Now, on my paper here, I'm missing Ivan Albright's dates. So if someone can find that and chip in with that information, that would be great. So the painting in the middle is Ivan Albright. I'm not sure if it's his studio, but you get a sense of him. The painting on the left is very big painting, very tall. I would say 96 inches tall. And the painting on the right is an amazing painting full of all kinds of crazy stuff within the painting. If someone could, did someone find the dates?
Yeah, he's 1897 to 1983.
Okay, great, thank you. 1897 to 1983.
1983.
Okay, so Carol, see if you could find the title of the painting on the right. I
Okay.
don't have that in front of me. His titles are very interesting. The title of the painting on the left is called That Which I Should Have Done, I Did Not Do. That which I should have done, I did not do. So now, and the one on the right, I think is called Poor Room. And then I can't remember the rest. Do you see that, anyone?
No.
It looks very sculptural.
Very sculptural and intense as anything. So what he did was,
I found the title, Simon.
yes, okay, good. What is it?
I think I found it.
Good, what is it?
There is no time, no end, no today, no yesterday, no tomorrow, only the forever and forever and forever without end, the window.
Wow.
Can you read that again?
Yes. There is no time, no end, no today, no yesterday, no tomorrow, only the forever and forever and forever without end, the window.
And is it called Poor Room?
Yes,
Oh, that's what it starts. It starts as Poor Room.
yes,
And then the rest.
yep.
Okay, that's great. Now, I mean, it's loony.
Oh,
Loony,
I remember.
great. Okay, so let me say something about Ivan Albright. He lives in Chicago, and much of his work is located at the Chicago Art Institute. And the reason is very interesting. He hardly sold anything in his life. And he actually did not want to sell the paintings. I don't know if he was independently wealthy but at a certain point, he married a woman who was independently wealthy, very well-to-do. And so he kept most of his paintings, which is, kind of wonderful. The one on the left and the one on the right have interesting histories And what the history is that, say with the one on the right, he created this world in his studio from things that he found. So in pictures on him in his studio, you'll see a picture of the setup for this painting. And it consists of an old window and lots of accoutrements that were connected with that window. I believe the same thing is true with the one on the left. I don't know if it's possible for you to do this, Dean. The one on the left,
Mhm.
could you make bigger?
Oh, sorry. Let's see, I'm just gonna copy it.
Great, great. Now, as a feat of magic, Dean, could you go back and find the picture that I did of a sink?
Oh, yeah.
There we go. And can you move them apart a little bit? Yeah, that's great. That's terrific. How about this? Move them over a little bit, make them slightly smaller. Beautiful. Yeah, great. Make it slightly smaller. Okay, now can you go back to Antonio Lopez? And yeah, there we go. The one in the middle, can you bring over to that group? You're amazing, Dean. I don't know how you do this. Absolutely amazing. And yeah, and well, yeah, okay, that's fine. I think put the one of Lopez in the middle and mine on the right. Yeah, 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 that's great. And can you make that the same size?
Yeah.
A little smaller. Yeah, that's good. That's good. Whoa, boy, that's terrific. Terrific. Wow. I'd like to see that exhibit. Wouldn't that be terrific?
Wow, yeah.
Terrific. So Ivan Albright, one more thing about him, and then we really have to go. He painted 1 square inch a day. 1 square inch, the little bit smaller than your thumb, this part of your thumb per day. And when I read about this, I said to myself, my kind of guy, my kind of guy, 1 square inch a day. Okay. And he was such an unusual man. And yet when you see pictures of him, you get no sense of that at all. And at the end of his life, he did a whole bunch of self-portraits. You get no sense that he was really whacked out. I highly recommend a painting of his called Into the World Came a Soul Called Ida. Into the world came a soul called Ida. I would look for that. Dean, this is fantastic. Thank you. Let's do the next one. Okay, so these three I put together for these three, that there is a reason, Carol.
Yes.
So the one on the left is by a woman who's English, but ends up living in the United States. Her name is Sylvia Sly, Sly or Slay, Sleigh, 1916 to 2010. And the one in the middle, you've already seen, by Celia Paul. The one on the right is a very interesting German artist named, named
That's Lucian Freud.
the
isn't
one
it?
in the middle is by Lucian Freud. Yes, terrific. Thank you. The one on the far right is a German artist, a woman named Lottie Lasserstein,
Yeah.
Lasserstein, or Lasserstein, Lasserstein, Lasserstein. Her dates are 1898 to 1993. Very good painter.
Yeah.
Very, very intense, very mysterious and interesting. She'd be worth looking up. I did not know much about her until maybe 10 years ago, 5 years ago. So that painting, you see her painting a woman, a friend of hers, I believe. So here on the one on the left, you see Sylvia Sly painting a young man. Okay, maybe doesn't look exactly like a young man, but that's a young man. She's painting him. In the middle, Celia Paul is painting her model. And in the one on the right, Lottie Lasserstein is painting this model. I like this arrangement. It seems to have a nice flow to it. Let's do the next one. Okay, so this one is kind of a surprise to me. I would not have thought that the piece on the left was by Escher. I would not have thought that unless I saw it in a book and I looked down and I saw his name. Moritz Escher, I think is Maurits, Escher, Escher. The one in the middle and the one on the right are more well-known images of Escher. Also, the one on the left is very small. I would say 7 inches. And it seems to be done through some kind of scratch out quality, which I don't understand at all. I don't understand, but it's like a crayon that's put down first, and then the image is scratched out of the crayon. The one in the middle, you see Escher as an older man, and he's reflected in this bowl.
Okay.
And the one on the right, you see a typical Escher where things go round and round in circles, and very intellectual and very process oriented. Stairways that go to nowhere, nowhere to go to the stairways. Very, very interesting artist. But the one on the left is a real surprise. So, and the fact that it's so small is very appealing. The next one. Okay, so this is by a Finnish artist whose name is Helene, Helene, Schurfbeck. So you spell that SCJHERFBECK. No, I'm sorry, SCJHERFBECK. 1862 to 1946. So the interesting thing about Schurfbeck is that she starts out to be quite traditional, early work, quite traditional, and yet very serious. At a certain point in her life, on the early side, she discovers kind of like a Scandinavian modernism, and her work changes and becomes more pared down, more minimal, more abstracted. She'd be an interesting artist to look up. So more pared down, more pared down. She, very moody looking, very interesting looking, totally committed to art. Throughout her life, she does these self-portraits. At the age of 80, she does a grouping of very small self-portraits. And there are more of them than the 3 I have here. So these 3 are done at the age of 80, maybe 81, 82. I think she passes away at 82. They are stunning. They are just simply stunning. I saw these in a room at the main museum in Der Haag, Gemeentemuseum, I think it's called. And they were in a round room. And I think the one after the one on the right is even more minimal. And it starts to seem that she's disappearing. So this series of late self-portraits of Schurfbeck are extraordinary and deep, really deep. The next one is the last one. Okay, so I at the last minute today, Dean granted me this favor of putting these in. And I didn't want to, I wasn't sure if we'd have the time to see these. So I said, let's put these at the very end because I didn't want to interrupt the flow of this. So these 3, I could have put with George Tooker earlier, and I should have, but I lost track of it. And then at the last minute, I thought of this. So we put these at the end. So the middle one is a self-portrait of George Tooker with a shell in a round format. Very interesting painting. The one on the left and the one on the right are, if not masterpieces, the closest thing to masterpieces you could get. So the one on the left is owned by the Whitney Museum, and the one on the right is owned by the Metropolitan Museum. And many times when I've been there, these paintings have been up. They are not as big as you would think. So the one on the left is 36 inches wide. And the one on the right, I think is much smaller. It may be 28 or 30 inches or even less. They're both done in tempera, and they're very reflective of a kind of angst, paranoia, and in your face quality of a city, and they're very fascinating. And I don't know what more I could say about this. I'd like to answer any questions you have or comments. So if you have anything to say comment-wise, please come in now. Question?
I don't know why, but the Tooker, the last one on the right, makes me think of Kafka.
Yeah, yes, yes,
Huh.
absolutely, absolutely. Yeah, I agree. I think the origin of the painting had to do with an event that occurred where he went to, I think, the Motor Vehicle Bureau in Brooklyn, and this was his take. This was his take on being there. Okay, but it absolutely transcends that, and I think you see him there a few times. So the issue of repetition is very striking in the painting. And the fact that you see parts of the faces is very striking.
Mm.
Dean, if I could ask you, could you make that picture bigger? Great, great.
Oh, wow.
Isn't that terrific?
That's very, yeah.
Really striking, really striking.
Wow.
So a painting like this has, for my purposes, and everyone's purposes will be different really. But for my purposes, it has everything because it has a great feeling for humanity, even a kind of detached humanity, but a great feeling for humanity, and a great sense of modernism, modern contemporary life. Um, I think it's extraordinary. And if you ever go up to the Met and you go into the contemporary wing, I've seen it there quite a bit. You could even ask to, before you go, ask to see if this painting is on exhibit. There may be some person who can give you that information.
What's it called? What's it
It's
called?
called the Government Bureau. It's called the Government Bureau.
Sense.
Can you, Dean, can you put the picture of the subway at this size? That's it. Yeah, great, great, great. You see the way things repeat in this? And then all the way in the back, all the way down, all the way in the back, there's this tiny woman.
Mhm.
And I believe this is Tooker many times. Took her with a hat, took her with a hat, took her in those booths, on and on in those booths.
Oh,
People going down the stairs, people going around in circles. Um, I don't know if I was doing a painting of a subway, personally, I would think twice about doing it. This is so good. And I really would reiterate my statement that if these two paintings aren't masterpieces, they're as close as you could get to one.
Hmm.
This is like putting all the marbles together.
Simon, if I could just say one thing about it.
Sure.
What's really quite wonderful about this, it's reminding me of Ghirlandaio and a bit of Piero, and particularly the her color scheme.
Yes.
It's really quite wonderful as he brought Quattrocento perspective into mid-century New York without it being historicist.
Beautiful.
It's really quite an accomplishment because all the American regionalists tried and they didn't really succeed, and he really nailed it there.
What Nick is talking about is 1400s paintings, the color scheme.
Well, she's the Virgin. That's the color of the Virgin,
Also reinvented in the 20th century. And the next big presentation that I have in mind would be Piero, Courbet, and Balthus. So Piero influences not so much Courbet, but Balthus. And this painting, you could almost make an argument, looks a bit like Piero. The colors and the motif of it. Do you have a question or some input on any of the artists that I presented? Anyone? I mean, it's not crucial that you do this, but I want you to have a say. I want you to have a, involvement.
I had a question about the Schurfbeck.
Schurfbeck, yeah.
Are those at the bottom right? Were those the dates of those works?
I don't know. I
45,
didn't,
44?
yes. I would say yes. Yes, I would say that these would, I think that she was about 80 or 81 when she did these.
She would have been 80, in 45, she would have been 83.
Okay, so this is just before she passes away. And I didn't know a great deal about her work. I ended up seeing a good size exhibit of her work the last time I was in London. And I saw this exhibit at the Gemint Museum in The Hague. The self-portraits throughout her life are stunning. And this grouping in which she does just before she passes away is so deep and so dark and so upending. It's really stunning. I mean, it's not pretty, but it's just so deep.
I
Anyone else?
asked about the dates because what Europe was going through,
Yeah.
seeing
Yes.
what had affected them.
That could have connected. It could have connected. I don't know much about her life, okay, but I know what her paintings look like, and I think she's wonderful. Rita, any questions for you?
No.
No? Okay.
I have one, Simon.
Yeah.
Actually, two. One is a comment. When I was just an interesting one. I was telling my husband that your brother was a painter, which I did not know before coming to this class.
Yeah.
And he said, what do his works look like? And I said, well, there's this one that reminds me of that Norman Rockwell painting. And I know you're not fond of Norman Rockwell, but the one you showed tonight reminded me so much of the painting that your brother did where he's standing at the easel.
Yes. You're right. That's a very good point. You're absolutely right.
That was just a comment. It came up tonight at dinner.
No, I agree with you. I agree with you entirely.
Something about how it's composed and
Yes. Don't get me wrong. Norman Rockwell, very, very talented, very good hand. But if I was going to compare Norman Rockwell and Edward Hopper, I would choose Edward Hopper.
right.
And this is an interesting distinction. I think Norman Rockwell was a much better painter than Edward Hopper.
Technically.
But Edward Hopper is a much better artist. Okay. So we're talking about the difference between facility
Right.
and whatever you want to call art is,
Right.
what
Right.
it really means.
Right.
What's your second point?
The second thing is, I feel actually a little bit silly asking this question, but
Anything.
one of the things that I notice in almost all of these is the great intensity and seriousness of almost every single artist. And so my question, I think, is like, I'm making a presumption here. If your life's work, like you are compelled to be an artist, you are called to be an artist. When I think of a calling, I think of that as like bringing joy and a joyful thing, something that's fulfilling and satisfying. And so when I look at all these self-portraits and I see despair in some and maybe depression or struggle in some, I'm trying to figure out like, okay, if my life's calling is to be is as an artist, and that's my craft, and I have to do this thing. Can you talk a little bit about what you think is like why the intensity of the self-portraits? And maybe this is because I work with little kids and I think about joy all the time with little kids. And so my perspective is different from, I'm just curious about that concept.
I think your question is hands down brilliant. Okay, brilliant. So what could one say? I guess I would start out by saying being happy is overrated. Smiling too much is overrated. I have a lot of problems understanding people who smile a lot. I always think there's something wrong, and I always think what's behind that. Okay, so that's on a facetious level. The journey is to find out something. The journey is you're out there with a butterfly net and you're trying to find things. And the journey differs from one person to another. And maybe someone else would have picked out work that was not as intense as these. I picked out work that mirrors my sense of life and the world. I mean, that's all we can do, is we see the world through our prism. And so there might be much happier images that someone else would have picked out. But I like the grouping, and I actually even asked Nick here. I don't see him, maybe he stepped out, but I even asked Nick if he felt there was an important artist that I'd left out. And he was thinking about this, and I think it's the passion you bring that is your voyage, your calling. And in terms of that, there's a very interesting film that I would recommend. It's a film called Fast, Cheap, and Out of Control.
Yeah.
Did anyone ever see that? Okay, this is a film by, it's a very well-known documentary filmmaker. He did something called The Thin Blue Line.
Yeah, Morris.
What? Errol Morris. Errol Morris. Errol Morris. So
Yeah.
Errol Morris does this film, and I believe this film can be watched by a kindergarten class and a college graduate class. So it's a film about 3 or 4 people who find something in life. They discover something, and that discovery sends them on their journey. So there's a fantastic part of the film where a man is interviewed, and he's maybe slightly nerdy, but he is obsessed with naked mole rats. Naked mole rats. And at one point he holds up the mole rat, holds it up.
Were they ever
and
dressed?
What?
Just- I'm sorry. I said, are they ever dressed? It was just a,
Okay, I just didn't hear you. I just didn't hear you. So he holds up.
Never
so
mind.
this
Ignore
man-
me. I'll mute myself.
No,
Yes.
that's fine. Don't do that. So this man holds up this naked mole rat and he says, I found it. I found the thing that would propel my life, that would give my life meaning. And there he is holding up this rat. And I think it's a wonderful film because we all look for that. And it's also very funny. The film is very funny if you think of it in another way. There's one person who works with robots, and there's one person who does topiary. Topiary. There might be a fourth one, I can't remember.
It's a lion tamer. Lion tamer.
Oh, a lion tamer. Oh, you saw this film. You saw this.
Yeah, actually, I gave a class on this guy.
You saw it in a class?
No, I gave a class on him. One of my presentations. was on
Oh,
him.
interesting. So what did you think? Do you think it's as good as what I'm saying?
Yeah, it's like I said, each one of them has a passion in life, right? And actually, that's their life. The one with the mole rats, that's all he cares about. And the one with topiary,
Yes, if I could.
He spends years doing that. So yeah, that's their life.
If I could interrupt you, when the man holds the rat up, he says, I can see the whole world through this rat.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. And it's really brilliant. It's absolutely brilliant. And I think it's a great film you should look at it first, but I believe it's a great film for a kindergarten class. And great art can be enjoyed by a kindergarten class and a graduate school class, a mailman, an intellectual, a roller skate rider in the street, and the hardware store owner. I think a kindergarten class would like that film, but you should see it first because I don't want to be, I don't want to get you fired, but I think it's terrific. Any other questions?
I have a comment.
Yes.
Over years, I've tried to draw self-portraits, and especially during the pandemic, and it's hard work. So even though I can't draw very well, but I was so serious in concentration trying to do it that I came out looking like an old man or different things. So I think to answer part of what Kirsten was saying also is that the act of the work is hard work. The act of painting, drawing. I mean, you can speak much better to this, Simon, than I, but.
I also think that, I gave a sort of flip answer to Kristen, not quite flip, but almost. But I think also when you're looking at yourself, you tend to look more serious than you are. Any other questions? So I just remind you to send me the 2 images and we'll put them one next to the other. This presentation, which I thought would take 1 class, took 3. And but that's the way life goes. And I've enjoyed this very much. And it's a good thing Renee was here because I see what I'm doing now. And thanks, it was a great evening. Thank you.
Simon, I have a question.
Yeah, go ahead. Go ahead.
Sending 2 images. Are you talking about images or else writing about the images?
You're sending, I think you already sent 2 images.
I did. They weren't images. They were talking about images.
Oh, I see. You have to send them.
Okay, I did, so I'm not going to.
You did send them.
Yes.
Okay, good. That's what I meant. That's what I meant.
All right.
Yeah. Okay, we're on the same
Good
page.
night.
We're right there. The ones of you who haven't, please do that. And have a great week. I'll see you next week.
Thank
Good
you.
night.
Thank you, Simon.
Okay, great. Nice seeing you, Len.
Bye.